Good afternoon and welcome to the FACT Accreditation Portal tutorial, how to complete an annual or renewal application in the portal. This training will also be applicable to eligibility applications if you are seeking to be a new applicant with FACT. My name is Elisa Forsyth. I'm the IT Business Analyst at FACT, and I will be performing the training this afternoon. Our new portal is located at portal.factwebsite.org. You can access this new portal by navigating directly to that URL or from our homepage at factwebsite.org. We have links to the FACT Accreditation portal down here in our common tabs. If you are attempting to access our old portal for any reason, your application is still out there in that previous portal, you can go to the My Account link and then access the FACT Web logo below the login form. And then another resource that you guys should be aware of is under Education and Resources. In the right-hand navigation pane, we have Portal Resource Center. And this is a list of guides and tutorials to help with the new portal launch. If you're looking to access guides for the old portal, you can access that behind this FACT web tile. But for applicants, all of those guides are available here. So back at portal.factwebsite.org, this portal was launched effective October 1st. That means all new applications that were generated effective October 1st are going into the new portal. Any application that was already generated in the old portal where the applicant has begun to work, those we're going to go ahead and see through fruition in the old portal. So those will be completed in factweb.org. So the very first time you try to access the portal, if you are accessing for an application, you probably received an email notification from our portal saying you have an application ready. In that event, the email address that we sent that email notification to, that's going to be your login. So use that email address that we sent to you as your username. In order to gain access, though, you'll need to reset your password. So let's look down just below this login form, and you see to reset your password, complete the reset password form. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then you're going to enter that email address that we just, again, issued that statement to. And then go ahead and hit submit. In order to gain access to that account, we want to ensure that you actually have access to that email address on file. So what we do is we generate an email notification that will come to your email. Emails generated from the new portal will have a very similar look and feel. All of our emails will come from portal@factwebsite.org. So make sure if your organization has a particularly nasty email filter and it likes to block things, in advance, go ahead and contact your IT departments and get this email address whitelisted. Then it'll have a subject, it'll have the URL that you're looking for, and it'll have a footer. So you'll recognize our emails as they'll have that same consistent format. We're going to click the URL provided in that email, and that's going to bring up the reset password form. It'll have your first name and last name displayed as well as your email address, just to confirm that we know who you are and you know who we are. So we're letting you know that this is the account that we have on file. Your first name and last name should match with the email address on file. Password requirements, they have to be at least 8 characters in length with at least 1 number and 1 special character. If you try and enter something that doesn't meet that requirement, we're going to throw up a warning here in the top corner. If at any time these types of warnings will appear throughout your portal experience, whether it's a success notification or an error notification. If you want to delay that notification from closing, you can simply put your mouse over it and that'll freeze it. Once you remove your mouse, that warning will go away. So if I remove my mouse, then that'll go ahead and fade into the background. If you have a password that meets requirements, then that warning won't display. In the confirm password field, if your passwords don't match, that submit button isn't going to enable. So once your passwords both match, then that submit button turns blue. On submit, you get a success notification and you're returned to that login page. So now you know your email address and your password, and you can then proceed into the portal. Before we do that, let's talk about a few other features here on this page. If I type in my email address, we are going to be logging in today as Buzz Lightyear, a training user that I have set up. And if you want to see the password that you've entered, you can select this Show Password field, and that'll show you the characters that you've entered so you know whether or not you're putting in an accurate password. Okay. If you select the Remember Me option, that'll store a cookie on your local computer. That'll store your username. It will not store your password in that cookie for security reasons, but lots of browsers have a built-in feature to remember your password for you, and so those two features can work together to make sure that those fields can populate for you. If you are a brand new organization to FACT and you would like to begin an eligibility application, then that means you don't have an account with us yet. Your organization doesn't have an account with us yet. If you're one of those individuals, then you would want to create an organizational profile on behalf of your organization. So when you create an organizational profile, we're asking you some basic information about what's your organization name, who's your director, your primary contact, and what field of accreditation are you looking for. With that, we can set up an org and a few user accounts for your director and primary contact, and then you can begin your eligibility application. So this is, again, for organizations that are not currently accredited that would like to be accredited. If you are already accredited with FACT, when your organization is migrated between your applications, so right before your next application is supposed to generate, we'll create your organization and all your personnel, the org director and the primary contact, we will create for your organization. And in the new portal, you guys have the ability to create users. And so you would be creating users on behalf of your own organization from that point forward. Next, let's go ahead and log in. This process is called two-factor authentication. The very first time you log in, you have to perform two-factor authentication because you've never done it before. Once two-factor authentication is done, and what that means is, again, we're going to send an email notification to your account with a special code. You're going to copy and paste that code into this field that shows up here. And once you've performed that two-factor authentication, we update that existing cookie to say, yes, this person is who they say they are. They've confirmed that they are who they say they are on this particular computer. So once that two-factor authentication is in your cookie, you will not have to do this process every single time you log in. The only time you'll have to repeat this process is if you log in from a computer that cookie isn't present. So if you do two-factor authentication at work and then you try and log in at home, that cookie is not going to be present at home. So you're going to have to repeat that process. If you clear your cache on your local computer, then that wipes out all the cookies that you have. So that would, again, you'd need to repeat two-factor authentication. And sometimes, but not consistently, if you reboot your computer, that could also result in your cache getting cleared. Again, it's coming from portal@factwebsite.org. And we're just going to copy this code. And we're going to paste that into the field and hit submit. And now we're in. So this is the look and feel of the new FACT accreditation portal. For every organization that you belong to, if you're one of the few people that belong to multiple organizations, you could have multiple applications that are live at the same time. In the old portal, you'd have different logins. In the new portal, you have one login, and it controls access to both of the different organizations' applications. So what we're seeing here, now that we've logged in, is a list of our current applications that this person has, that Buzz Lightyear has assigned to him. So each one of these rectangles we call tiles. Each tile represents an organization's application. So these are 3 different annual applications for 3 different organizations: Training Org 3, Training Org 2, Training Org 1. Okay. These represent 3 different stages of the annual process. So we'll begin in one and we'll work through each of these today. So if you belong to 3 different organizations, you can have a renewal for one organization live at the same time that you've got an annual for a different organization. Another time that you could see multiple tiles present on this home page is if you are working on, let's say, an annual report and you have follow-up RFIs in your compliance application. They were items that you weren't able to close out at the time of your compliance application, and you worked with your FACT coordinator and they said, okay, these will be due at the time of your annual. Okay? If that takes place, then your annual application would be live and you have a tile here present at the same time that your compliance application is active. So you could potentially see two tiles. With the first time you log in, because we're new to the portal, your old applications are going to be in the old portal, so you'll likely only have one tile present on your home page. Another feature to be aware of this new portal, as well as any website, if you press and hold down your control key on your keyboard and then use the roller ball on your computer, it will zoom in and zoom out appropriately. So you can just zoom in to whatever scale you would like. I'll zoom in just slightly for the purposes of training today. And then again, you can set it to whatever your preference is while working in the portal. So let's go ahead and talk more about these tiles. We've got the organization name, the type of application, the submitted date. Because these applications are in progress, that submitted date is going to be not applicable. Once you've submitted the application to FACT, that submitted date will actually populate into that field. The due date, this is the date that it's due back to FACT. And then the cycle number, this is the number of times you've been accredited with FACT. For example, the very first time that you complete an eligibility application, you're in cycle 1. So eligibility, then a compliance application, then an annual report. Those 3 applications are all part of your 3-year accreditation cycle. At the time that you begin your renewal application, your subsequent renewal, that's the beginning of the next cycle in the chain. So cycle 2 would begin at the time of your renewal, compliance, annual, and then cycle 3. So this says how many times you've been accredited with FACT. Then we've got an image of your coordinator, the name of your coordinator, and easy access to contact information for your coordinator. Over on the right-hand side, we've got the in progress notification. So this is the status of your application, and it has a color-coded indicator that goes along with that. So yellow indicates in progress. The other colors that you're likely to see are RFI, which is red. The other red is past due. Application history, these are quick links to various pages within your application itself. And we'll take a look at those more in depth when we actually get into the application. Next, we've got the link to begin working on your application. This open application link is the same as the annual application link, so you can use whichever one is more intuitive to you. They both go to the same location. Let's talk briefly about the left navigation pane. We've got this My Applications link. This is underlined. That's because this is currently where we're sitting. This page that you're viewing right now is the My Applications link. This is your landing page when you first log into the portal. Next, you've got a help link. That's going to take you straight to that portal resource center that I was talking about previously. And again, you select applicants if you'd like to see applicant guides, select inspector if you'd like to see the ones relevant to inspectors only. All generic guides are going to be here on the applicant's side, how to log in, how to reset my password. Anything that is on the inspector side is only applicable really to inspectors. This up here at the top is a refresh. This page will automatically refresh every once in a while, but if for some reason you've submitted your application and it doesn't look like it's been refreshed, you can select the little swirly icon to refresh your home page here. So let's go ahead and drill into the application itself. So we're going to select Open Application. And again, we have a smaller version of this application's tile. So it has, again, the type of application, the organization name, submitted date, due date, and because this is an annual, there isn't an inspection, so this will remain not applicable. This would populate if you were working on a compliance application and your inspection becomes scheduled, then that inspection date would populate. Again, always accessible is your coordinator contact information and name. If we scroll down here, we start to see the makeup of the annual application itself. So these little arrows indicate an accordion style. So this pointing down means that that section has been expanded. If you start to look at section 3 here, you can see that they're pointing sideways. You just click on those to expand out and begin working on your annual application. We always recommend when working in the new portal, or the old portal for that matter, to work your applications from top to bottom. The portals have built-in logic that disable subsequent questions so that you don't have to do extra work. So if something's not applicable to you, we will disable it for you. But that's only beneficial if you're working from top down. Otherwise, you may end up working on applications that will subsequently be disabled. To respond to the application itself, we can select this questions link. This opens up a form. These are called modal windows, these little like semi pop-ups. Again, this should look familiar to kind of the old portal in the sense that we've got the requirement itself or the standard if you're working on a compliance application. And then we've got the question itself. Select your type of organization. These blue question marks are tooltips, so you can click on those to get additional information about that question. Once you select a radio button, under each question, there's a comment option. So enter applicable document name and page number as evidence of compliance. This first part for the document name and page number, this is primarily if you're working on a compliance application within our portal. But if you're working on an annual, you may just have other comments. So you can click on that link and say any justification for the response that you're given. You don't have to use these comment fields, but if you do utilize the comment fields, that we are going to leave the comment field open so that others looking at your application, whether it be someone at your organization or a fact staff member, that we see what those comments are. So we don't minimize that comment field. If you remove your comments, then you can hide that comment field and it's no longer applicable. If you need to validate one of your organization's responses, so let's say you're pretty sure you're a CT program, but you might be collection. Hopefully you know the difference. But in the event, again, that you're trying to just verify some information, you've selected an answer, but you're not sure. You can say, I need to verify this. Make a note to self. And then you can use this flag feature. This flag feature prevents you from being able to submit your application. So this is something that you click, so it's something that you control, and it's just I don't want to submit the application until this has been verified. And then later on in the process, once you've gone through the initial preliminary easy answers that you performed and you want to go back to your flagged ones, you can filter your application to only show flagged items, and we'll see that in a little bit. So then it gives you an easy way to go back and refer to only the ones that you wanted to follow up on. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. Okay, so I've selected the type of organization, and I've selected, let's say we're going to do, I'm a CT program with peripheral only, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, you can now see that the clinical program section is still active. The marrow section has now disappeared because that section, section 3, is not applicable to my organization. So it's immediately deactivated. So then we can open up section 2.1 and begin answering the questions related to the clinical program. You do have the option of hitting save, which closes these windows. These are called modal windows. You can select save and go to next, and that'll save your current page, and it'll move you to the next section. So this one would move us from 2.1 to 4.1. Okay. So you've got different question types. These are called people pickers. You're just selecting the name of an individual at your organization. If you are missing an individual from your dropdown, let's say your program director is missing from this list, you have the ability to create and edit personnel that appear in these fields. And we'll look at that further here in a little bit. Next, we've got a document upload type question. This document upload gives you the option to choose a file. Within the new portal, this is different from the old portal, we do give you the ability to upload multiple documents at once. When you are a new organization and you're just filling out your first application, your document library is going to be empty, so you're not going to have any content populated in here. If you're going to be importing documents, you can select choose files. That'll open up your Explorer window to browse your files, and you can just use the Control key on your keyboard to click multiple items in your list, and then select Open. We're halfway done with the import process. It's brought those files in, and it's giving us the option to rename these files. If your organization has a document naming convention that is obscure, let's say it's policy 12345. When fact, or when it comes to your compliance application, your inspectors, when they're reviewing these documents, it's helpful if those document names are meaningful and representative of the content within the file itself. So rename your documents to be something meaningful that's, again, relevant to the content as appropriate. So let's say this attending physician certificate is actually the attending physician certificate for Buzz Lightyear. I'm just going to add that person's name in there. So again, that's meaningful. And then I hit Upload to Library. The new files are imported and appear at the top of the list. By default, we sort by that created date. So your new files are always going to appear at the top. That document name, you can see it now contains the name Buzz Lightyear in the document name column, but we've also maintained the original file name so that that's easily accessible to your organization so that you know what file it was that you were actually referencing. To attach a document to a question, we just highlight that document in orange and hit Attach Selected Document. Okay, you can see that the attending physician certificate has now been attached to my question. If I want to remove it, I can select the gray X. If I want to add additional entries, I can just hit Add Entry. And you can do that as many times as you need. Also, within the document library window, I'm going to go back in by selecting Choose File. I can also, again, holding down that Control key on my keyboard, I can select multiple files that I would like to attach to this question. So now I've got 3 records highlighted in orange, and I say Attach Selected Document. Now all 3 documents are attached to the question. So that's working with our document library. If you are in that document library frame and you're looking for a specific document, you can click on the file or the different column headers to sort. Click once to ascend, twice to descend. If you are wanting to search for a file name in particular, you can use these little filter icons here to say, I want to look for something that contains the name, the word Buzz, and hit Filter. Then that's going to filter all of the items in the list to only return items that contain the word Buzz. So then you can select the appropriate document and hit Attach. So that filter ability is available on each of the different column headers. You can sort or search on the created date, the original file name, or the document name. We've got another document upload question. Here is a question type that is a text area. These are called Wysiwyg. That stands for what you see is what you get. Wysiwyg editors allow you to do font formatting, so you can use bold, italics, underlines, bullets, indentation, hyperlinks. You can put in images. Images do have a negative impact on the export to Excel because Excel can't handle the pictures, so I would use that sparingly. But you can export your applications to Excel. So if you are implementing or pasting pictures into these fields, that will throw an error when you do your export to Excel, but it will export all the data itself, just the image itself won't export. So just keep that in mind if you're going to be using that new export to Excel feature. So you can type in your field, highlight the word that you want to customize, and then if you want to do those bullets, you can use bullets or numbering to format your content appropriately. Other question types that you will see within your application are date fields. These are called date pickers. So you're just going to select the calendar icon, locate the date that you'd like to select, click on it, or you can type in those date fields. That would be appropriate as well. I'm also looking for, hopefully I can find one with checkboxes, because I would like to give you a helpful hint in utilizing the portal or any website for that matter, working with checkboxes. I already did 2. I want 4. Did that. See if I can find one for you guys. Here's one. Okay. So question 31. Select all the products that you process. Especially, again, when we get to compliance applications, but it's relevant to annuals, renewals, and eligibility as well. When you see these question box type fields, especially if there's a lot of checkbox options, and you're going to be checking all of them, you can click on the first one to activate that first checkbox, but then you can use the tab key on your keyboard, and that will select the next checkbox in the list. And you can hit the space key to check that checkbox. So then I can easily go tab space, tab space, tab space through all of those checkboxes and check those checkboxes easily without having to move your mouse and try and click directly on each of those different checkboxes. So that's a more efficient, easy way to quickly move through those checkbox questions. Okay, that is working in really the heart of this application. This My Applications link in the navigation pane, this takes you back to that landing page. We select Open Application. You can see that this left navigation pane changed. So we originally had the My Applications and the Help link. The site checklist is the current page that we're on. This is the heart of the system, and it contains the application and these questions link. This is the site checklist. Next, we've got the quick view. This is, again, the new portal's version of that status view. You can see what's in progress, what's complete, or everything within your application as well. These filters are dynamic, so if something is not applicable, let's say you don't have any questions that are RFI. See, we're not seeing the RFI filter because that's just not applicable to us at this point in time. If we were to have an RFI, then that filter were to show up. So only the filters that are relevant to your application are going to show up, but you can use these filters to select the different options to see what's going on with your application. These rectangles over here are interactive. So if you want to open one up, let's say this clinical program is still yellow. Let's open that up. Open this up and actually respond and interact with your application from this quick view. Since I didn't answer all of the questions within that section, that's still going to be yellow. It's not going to turn green until every question within that requirement has been completed. Next, in the left navigation pane, we have a Document Library tab. The Document Library tab is going to show you all of the different documents that are attached to each requirement. If the document is in the library but it's not attached to a question, then it's not going to appear in this By Requirement tab, but it will appear in the full list. So this is a list. We've got 30 items here, nearly 29. But on the By Requirement tab, we're only really seeing 5. So the difference is that these documents are actually attached to a question versus the rest of these, which are not. You can also see the difference by this Associations tab. An association of evidence means it's been attached to a question. An association of none means that that document has been uploaded but never utilized. So you can safely delete something that has been uploaded but is not utilized. Anything that has an association of evidence, we're letting you know that the implication is there that you're using it somewhere. And so you'll want to make sure that you remove any links any associations of that document with any question prior to deleting that document. Also, one thing to know about deleting documents, you can only delete documents that you uploaded. So you're not going to be able to delete documents that were uploaded by other people at your organization. If you want to download documents en masse, you can select any number of documents using this checkbox feature. Then select Download Checked, and that's going to download a zip file. If you're working on the By Requirement tab and we select the different documents here and then hit Download Checked, it's going to download these documents again as a zip file, but it's going to prepend 2.1 to the file name so that your documents are then grouped by the requirement that you uploaded them against. So that's one of the features built into this document library. Again, we also have the ability to sort by the document name, upload date, and the associations. You can also filter using that filter feature that we discussed previously. You can also upload new files from this document library window. Again, you can do multiples at once, just again by selecting that, holding down that control key. Next, in the personnel area, when we create an organizational record in our portal for your organization, we're going to create, by default, 2 users and as well as your organization's record. The 2 users that we're going to create are going to be your organization director and your primary contact. Your primary contact and org director both will have the ability to manage users within your organization. So your primary contact is the most likely individual that's going to be managing personnel within your organization. So if you need an account, you're going to want to contact that person that your organization has provided as a primary contact. So that primary contact can then come in here and edit users that belong to their organization, and they can also add new users. When adding a new user, you're going to select User. This means that they're going to be able to log in and view the application itself. So you could be adding facility directors for your organization. You could be adding attending physicians or a fact liaison or a quality manager, whatever your situation may be. You're going to provide their name. How about Andy? I haven't used Andy yet. And I don't know Andy's last name, so we're just going to call him Andy Boy. How's that? And then you're going to populate that person's credentials. If you don't know it, that's okay. The individual can edit their own account, so they can update this information after the fact as well. The email address that that person's going to be logging in with. And there's 2 things that could happen when you enter this person's email address and try and create the account. If a user account already exists with that email address, you're going to be prompted, and it's going to say, we already have an account with that email address. Do you want to add an existing user? Or if that email address is unique, then it'll go ahead and create that account and it won't prompt you. So let's first show you what it'll look like if you try and add an existing user. So an existing user, I think I have Woody. So let's try that. And then I'm going to mark this individual as active. This grant user, add edit personnel. This feature, if you check that box, you as the primary contact or the organization director are extending that permission to be able to add and edit users within your organization to this new individual that you're creating. If you don't want to, as the primary contact, do all of the user adds by yourself, you can share that responsibility with someone else at your organization by checking that box. You can later take it away just by returning to that user account and unchecking that option. Each individual that you create is required to have at least 1 organizational assignment. You're going to select the name of the organization that they're being assigned to. We're going to pre-populate that with the organization name for the application that you're currently working in. And then you're going to select what's called a job function. This is what they do at your organization. Are they your clinical program director or are they your processing director? Whatever the case may be. So you're just going to select that and hit add. They can have as many or as few organizational assignments as you would like, but they must have at least one. You can remove them by returning to this page and hitting the remove link, and then you can add additional ones by repeating that same process. Next, select any languages that they speak, any individual memberships that this person may have, if you're aware of them, or again, that person can update this information themselves if they would like to. So then you go ahead and hit save. And again, I've created an existing user account. That user is in existence. So let's see. A pop-up is going to come up. An account already exists for this user. Would you like them to add them to your organization? So you can go ahead and select yes, and that will use that pre-existing user account, and then it'll utilize the organization and job function that you've already provided here. It'll add those to that user. If I select cancel, let's go back and add Andy and hit save. Then again, we did not get that prompt, but Andy is now added to that personnel list. Application history, it's going to track all the different status changes that take place within your application, who made those changes and the date. Next is the legend. So as you're working through this site checklist here, and you're seeing green dots and yellow dots, and as you progress through the application cycle, you might see a request for information. You're going to want to refer back to this legend to see what those different colors mean. You can also mouse over the colored dot, and the tooltip will come up and tell you what that colored dot means. So that's another easy way to distinguish those colors. Let's return to the My Applications list because I've already completed an annual for us. So as I mentioned previously, way back at the beginning of this training session, you can flag questions that you would like to return to later. When you flag a question, a banner is going to come up that you have flagged items. This is to let you know that you have follow-up items that are preventing you from being able to submit this application. So we can see that this section 1 is complete and section 2 is complete. Section 6 is still yellow, so that means it's in progress. So if I open this up and I see, oh, I have an incomplete item that I flagged here for follow-up, I'm going to come back and I'm going to add my response. And I hit save, but I forget to unflag that question. Everything's going to turn green. So theoretically, when the entire application is complete, I should have the ability to submit the application for approval within my organization before it goes to fact. But I'm not getting that option. The reason you're not getting that option is that outstanding flagged item. If I want to quickly find that flag, the easiest way to do that is to navigate to the quick view. And then I'm going to check this filter, has flagged. I'm going to open up that 6.1. I'm going to see that flagged item and I go, oh, there it is. I uncheck it, save. And then I can return to that site checklist and I now have the option to submit for director approval. When you complete an annual application, it does require director approval before it'll come to fact. All facility directors at your organization will need to sign off on the application prior to it coming to us. It doesn't matter who signs it first, as long as each person, I say sign, but really it's an approve button. They log into the portal and they see an approve button. So let's take a look at what that process looks like. I'm going to hit submit for director approval. And then if I refresh, so Buzz Lightyear is the only facility director that I'm currently using for this organization. Your organization may have multiple facility directors. They would all be listed here so you could see who's approved and who hasn't. If I am the director, I'm going to review those terms and conditions. I'm going to check the box to agree to the terms and conditions, and then they can hit that director approve button. The director will be notified of this process. They'll receive an email notification. It will look just like this. So here's the name of the organization. It went to my director. Buzz Lightyear. It'll also go to my primary contact, that's Woody the Sheriff, and any other people or organization that you've requested to receive email notifications when relevant. So that'll go out and it'll prompt your director to review the application before submitting it to FACT. So then they can click that link in that email and that will take them to this page. Be advised when they click that email, if this is the first time that they are accessing the application, they are going to have to go through that reset password process as well as that two-factor authentication. So if they may require assistance through that process, there's again those user guides available on the help page, or hopefully they've attended a training session, or maybe your director's tech savvy, whatever the case may be. Just be advised that those steps are going to have to take place prior to them actually making it to this page. But once they make it to this page, the terms and conditions show up. They check that box. Again, to review the answers, they could just open up the questions link and continue to review the content that you've uploaded within your application. And then lastly, they hit that Director Approve button. When they hit that Director Approve button, the application will automatically get delivered to FACT. So that submitted date now updates to today's date, and that application status is submitted. With regards to the renewal application, there actually is not a director approval process at the end of the renewal application. What happens is that renewal application gets submitted to FACT. FACT will do a preliminary review of the information and then we'll begin to draft your compliance application. That's the sites that are going to be inspected, what edition of standards you're going to be inspected under, the scope of their inspection will be. That gets taken and prepared. And then once we think we've got it right, we're going to send your renewal application as well as our draft of the compliance application to the director. And so they see how the compliance application is going to be set up, and then they would approve not only your answers to the renewal, but also the draft version of the compliance, so that we make sure that the director, organization director, knows exactly what sites are going to be inspected, what they're going to be inspected for, and what edition of the standards that's going to be inspected under. Go back to this My Applications list. And again, this is saying in progress. If I refresh, it updates to say application submitted. Okay. After you submit your application, most likely it's going to come back with a request for information or an RFI. An RFI is not a bad thing. It just means that we need information from you. So if it comes back as an RFI, we're going to hit Open Application. And you can see this RFI indicator lets you know where in the application you're supposed to be. And then we're just going to follow the red dots. So we can see that our RFI is in Section 2 for the clinical program. We can see specifically that it's in 2.1. I'm going to open that up. And then the RFI itself is highlighted by a big red RFI button. So if we keep scrolling down until we see that big red button, we can see that this RFI is actually on question number 56. So submit a corrective action plan. And the comment from FACT is that the Outcomes Committee has reviewed the program's information and requests an updated version of the corrective action plan. In order to respond to this RFI, we're going to hit the Add Response button. Again, it restates the question itself. It has the RFI comments from the FACT office. You're going to enter in your comment. If you need to attach an updated version of your corrective action plan or whatever the RFI calls for, if you need to attach a document, there's a document library button down below the comment field. So select Document Library. Use the filter to quickly locate your document or upload your document as appropriate. Once it's highlighted, select attach the selected document, and now you've got a document attached to your comment. Once you're finished, select Save Comment. So you can see the FACT comment, you can see your comment, you can edit that comment up until the time that it's submitted to FACT. Once it's submitted to FACT, that comment becomes locked in, and it's no longer, you're not going to see that edit button anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save. Seeing those success notifications that my application's been updated, and I hit Save again. You can now see that that red status indicator has changed to a lighter version of green. If we mouse over it, it lets us know that that means RFI completed. If we return to our modal window, to our questions thing, we scroll down to that question 56. You can see that that add response button has now changed to green to let you know that you fulfilled that RFI by adding a comment. Once that's done, if we hit refresh here, that submit application button now shows up, and we can submit our RFI back to FACT. So the general process that we'll go through is the application comes to you in progress. You submit that application to FACT. FACT will send it back for a round or two of request for information, or RFI. And once all of that is fulfilled, you'll get an email notification from FACT saying that your application has been approved. That concludes the tutorial session. Feel free to contact your coordinator if you have any questions about your current application or upcoming application, or reach out to me, Elisa Forsyth, the IT Business Analyst for FACT, if you have any questions about the portal itself. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to attend my training. Have a great day, everyone.